Hello and welcome to today's webinar, the Sony Alpha family with Mark Baber, here on the Societies of Photographers and Wilkinson Cameras Facebook pages. It's great to be back with Mark from Sony, who's the UK and Ireland's photo channel technical marketing manager. Mark is going to be showing us the Sony Alpha family of cameras, explaining to us where the camera sits in the range with hands-on demonstrations showcasing the latest Sony technology. This webinar is proudly supported both by Sony and Wilkinson Cameras, so a massive thank you to both of them for their support. Mark, it's great to have you back on the webinar series, so welcome back.
Thank you, Colin. Yep, really good to be back. That's quite a mouthful, wasn't it? That sounds like a really good webinar. When's he on? No, thank you. It's really good to be back. And again, thank you to Wilkinson Cameras and yourselves for hosting this as well. No, it's good to be here.
I mean, the Sony range is getting stronger day by day. There's been so many new cameras and lenses coming out lately, so it's going to be really interesting, certainly for our members, to see what's come out. I know we've done a couple of webinars on our Facebook page about some of the new lenses that have been out lately, but there's more and more coming out, and I think today it's just showcasing where certain products sit within that range and who they may be of benefit to, or what kind of particular genres of photography they work well for. So it's going to be a really interesting webinar today.
Yeah, it is, and this is a great opportunity for those of you that are watching that are maybe DSLR users. Yeah, not to worry what brand or how long you've had it and so on. This is just to say, look, if you're thinking to switch to Sony, you know, there's a lot of photographers, professional photographers in your community, part of the societies, and obviously watching it on Wilkinson Cameras Facebook page that use Sony kit, and I know there's been people following them and watching them and switching, and that's fantastic. So, you know, we're there to help customers to understand the benefits, the key USPs. So if you're thinking, look, I'm thinking about switching, but I'm still not sure, you know, we've all been locked away in our houses for the last, 12, 14 months. So this is probably the only way we've had the opportunity to interact with customers. So I'm trying, as I said earlier, Colin, preparing for this, we're trying to bring to life as if you were at a trade show, but in the comfort of your own home or in your car or in your shed or whatever, to understand, you know, where everything sits. We'll be focusing mainly really on the full frame models, but we'll also be talking about lenses and APS-C and stuff like that. So a huge amount of information and lots of demos that we've put special content together today for the viewers to embrace. And again, if you're watching this live, great. If you're not and you can't watch it all the way through, this will be obviously recorded so you can watch it at a later stage. So it's also an educational piece if you want to come back and refer to it. But it's part of Sony Week with Wilkinson Cameras, and there are some fantastic offers as well that we'll share at the end of the webinar. So it's worth staying all the way through to get those offers as well. So yeah, it's going to be a good morning.
Again, it's also an interactive webinar that we're doing today. So if you've got any comments or questions, then please post them in the comments. So if you're thinking of switching to mirrorless, or you have switched to mirrorless and you've got a question that you want to ask Mark, then let's use his expertise while he's here on the webinar series. So please do fire any questions in the comments below. And also let us know where you're watching from, because it's fantastic to see people tuning in. So say hello and let us know where you're watching from in the comments.
Well, Colin, that leads me perfectly into when we do these webinars. It's almost like it's scripted, isn't it? It is. If you're watching from far afield, please let us know where you're from. And of course, if you're a Wilkinson Cameras customer, great, welcome. If you're not, you're obviously welcome as well. But what I'd like to do is just to talk to the audience a little bit about the retailer, because you could be watching it far afield and don't know who these people are or where they are and what they're all about. So if I can just share you can share my screen here, Colin. Let me just. Can you hear me okay, Colin? Because I know we had some issues with sound earlier. Is that okay?
Yeah, sounding perfect.
Okay, great. So Wilkinson Cameras, great bunch of people. I've worked with them for many, many years, both when I was at Panasonic and Sony as well. Now, they're an independently owned photo and video specialist, and they've got 8 stores across the northwest of England. Now, as well as having a strong online presence at wilkinson.co.uk, you can see here, and the Sony Week, if you want to see the offers, are on the link here. Let me just bring my page up on my other side. This is their website here, as you can see. They have for 35 years they've been providing exceptional and friendly customer service expert advice, thanks to the team of passionate staff. And most of them, if you didn't know, are photographers too. Now, they've also asked me to share this site, which is a review site. And I wasn't aware of this, but Wilkinson Cameras have reviews.co.uk, I think it is, just short of 5 stars. So they are fantastic at customer service, and this obviously backs that up as well. Just to let you know, they are open Monday to Saturday, 9 to 5:30, and the customer service is always available 7 days a week via phone, email, and live chat. So there we go. Hopefully you'll be able to, if you have any questions around product with Wilkinson, then please visit their website, pick up the phone, have a chat with them, because we are here to help you. And if you are thinking of trading in any kit, Wilkinson staff are here to help. So you might be sat on some gear actually that's worth more than what you think it is, or vice versa. So it's worth having a chat, because we have at different times of the year additional bonuses to help you make that transition from, say, one brand to the other, because that's what we're here to do, to help you. Okay, Colin, I'm just going to go into what we're going to cover today. So we're going to have a quick look at the Alpha range. You can see me down here. Hello. We're going to have a quick look at the Alpha range, where everything sits. I think that's really good to explain, because a lot of people think that maybe the A9 is the flagship, or what camera do I need for low light, and so on. And even, which camera is good for video or stills. So it's good to get that kind of explained very quickly. We're then going to talk about the system, the one mount system. So if you weren't aware, you don't need any adapters with our native lenses. So we have APS-C and full frame, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. And then I've got some content, and this will take up probably the biggest chunk of the webinar, where I've put some content together where we go through the A7 series, the A7R, A7S, A7C, A9, A1 as well. So if there's a particular camera that you're looking for here, we go through a bit of spec. We've got the cameras that we've got in our hands, so we're looking at those in more detail. And then I've got some tech USPs, so some unique selling points of our kit that you may not get with your existing kit, you may not get with your existing Sony kit. So again, this webinar is for Sony users that may be looking to upgrade as well, because as you know, technology moves on, and technology gets better each year. So there may be something in the system now that you may not have you've had a few years ago. If we get time, and I'm not sure we will, because this is quite a long webinar, we want to keep it under an hour, we can look at how we make the lens technology with, in particular, our G-Master technology. Okay, so here we go. I'm back up here now, so I'm just going to remove some of these logos so that it doesn't get too confusing. Okay, so again, hello, good morning. So this is the full range of cameras. There's a couple of missing, which are the more entry level, but these are probably the most popular cameras that we have in the range. And for the first time, the A1. The A1 is the flagship camera for our range. So this sits right at the top. We've never really had a flagship. The flagship of, say, speed and autofocus performance, etc., would be the A9. For resolution, it would be the latest model, which is the A7R Mark IV, A7S S for sensitivity, and so on. So the A1 now is the flagship camera that sits at the top, does everything. So it's amazing low light, amazing video, 8K video. It has a 50 million pixel sensor that can shoot 30 frames per second, and we'll go into more detail in a second. But this is the one in inverted commas that does it all. Now the A9, the A9 II, for example, is the latest in the pillar of speed, reliability, accuracy, and sensor technology. So again, for this one, you're looking, if you're a sports photographer, a reportage, press agency, really high-end pros, as well as the A1 that does everything. The A9 would be the camera for you. But again, all these cameras are accessible to anybody with the budget. So it doesn't necessarily mean that these are just for professionals. Anybody can access these through your retailer. Obviously, Wilkinson Cameras is one of those. In the resolution section, so this is A7R, the A7R Mark IV, 60 million pixels, incredible dynamic range. So you can see where I'm going with this. It's got crop factor, mode where you can go from full frame to APS-C in the camera. It drops from 60 million to 28 million. and you get full 100% coverage on that. So all of a sudden, this landscape commercial portrait camera becomes interesting to wildlife photographers, because when you put an APS-C lens on a full frame body, you automatically crop by 1.5 times. So that affects the focal length. So for example, a 200 to 600 millimeter lens becomes a 300 to 900 millimeter lens. So dropping from 60 to 28, this is really interesting, because this could now be considered as a really good wildlife camera, when normally it's associated with landscape, portrait and so on. The A7S, so the A7S, S is for sensitivity. So this is incredible low light. So this is the camera you need if you're doing astro, you're doing gig photography and video. This has beyond broadcast quality in a compact consumer type camera. So 12 million pixels. The pixels are almost 4 times larger than a standard pixel count that you get on our sensors, and what that means, it lets more light in. And I've got a demo later that just will, just gives a really good example. I showed Colin yesterday. I think he nearly fell off his chair. In fact, he did fall off his chair this morning, which was quite funny, but he's okay, don't worry. And then you've got the A7, and the A7 is our entry level. And when I say that, it's way beyond entry level. It's kind of another all-rounder. So it's got a little bit of element of good low light, good resolution. It has a similar autofocus to the A9, but at a more affordable price. So a good, I think we called it the entry level camera. And then we've got the A7C, and that's only just come out in the last year, where it's flat, retro, modern style, two-tone. Really nice camera to look at. A flip out screen if you like that kind of thing, but it's the same kind of capability as the A7 III, but in this really small format. But get this across now, there's no compromise in picture quality, full frame sensor, and almost like an APS-C body. And then I've thrown this one in, and we did a webinar yesterday with Wilkinson Cameras on the FX3. This now is a video-centric box. It completely operates differently to the rest of the range. As you can see, it looks completely different. It fits all our lenses, but this is dedicated to video. It has a stills mode, but this now bridges the gap between our Alpha range and what we call the cinema line. And the cinema line is our cameras like the bigger boxes that go FX6 right up to the Sony Venice, which is, the cinematic type of cameras. And then you bring it up, the rest of the range here is our 6600, our 6400, and our 6100. And these are very small retro kind of modern fit with APS-C sensors. So the APS-C sensor is a lot smaller than the full frame, and it has the crop factor of 1.5 times. We do have other cameras as well, but we won't have enough time to go through those. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the range where everything kind of sits, and we'll go into more detail in a second. And if you want to find out more information, down the bottom here, see the ticker going along the screen. You can either go onto the Wilkinson website, or you can actually look at our own website, and it's really informative. You can select different models, drill down menu and so on, and you can find out even more information about our range. Colin, I'm not sure if we've got any questions whilst I just take a quick glass of water.
Yeah, we've got one question come in from Ian, which will fit in quite nicely to what you've just been talking about. So Ian is asking, will the Sony A74 be coming soon, as I'm holding out before making the change?
Yeah, look, I have no experience of future product, whether it comes or not. So unfortunately, I can't answer that question because I don't know. But what I can say is that we're for consistently listening to customers. We're we've just brought out the A1 that came from nowhere again. So all I can say is look at our websites, look at the retailer websites, and no doubt you'll be the first to know if that's the case. But like I said, if you keep holding out for future products that may come or don't come, you're losing out already on some amazing technology that's out in the marketplace. So all I can say is look at the websites and wait for any announcements from that point of view. Is that a good answer?
Amazing. Yeah, good point. We've got one more what's just come on, so we'll go to that one. What adapters are there to use Sony to Canon?
Sony's so probably the other way around, Canon to Sony. So yeah, so if you're say a DSLR user, Canon user, there are a variety of adapters. There is nothing better than using the native system. So we've got. I'm going to come on to lenses in a second. The native system is back in 2013 when we brought out our first lenses. Those lenses back then work on the latest gear without any issues. Now, so the last few camera releases, they're all. I don't know if we can foresee into the future, but the fact is we don't have at the moment anyway, that is, any Mark IIs and things like that or different lenses. They all work on the latest models. So I'll explain more about that in the minute. But answering the question, I think from experience when we've done events with yourselves, for example, and we've brought third-party gear across, then the most common used adapter that we find with customers is the Sigma MC11 adapter. And I'm not saying that to plug another brand, it's just fact. And it's probably the closest one I see through customer feedback that you get close to native autofocus and so on. So yeah, the message there is, if you've got a lot of glass with another manufacturer, especially Canon, because there's more adapters out in the marketplace, that isn't just the only one, say, compared to other brands like Nikon, there doesn't seem to be as many adapters, then yes, you can move things over. But you look at photographers like Terry Donnelly, for example, who, when he started using Sony gear, because we didn't have telephoto lenses like 400 and 600, he was using adapters, and I know if he's watching, he'll say that the adapters compared to what he's using now are just not as good. They don't have any glass in them, so they don't affect the optics, but they don't give you the same response as the native side. But the fact is, if you've invested heavily, and rightly so, you can move your glass over and come into the system.
Amazing. Perfect. That's it for now, so I will leave you back to it.
Let's get on to lenses then. Okay, so lenses. I'm not sure if you can see this on your screen, so if you're watching it on your phones and stuff, I'll explain to you. This is just a full frame lens range, so this doesn't include the APS-C here. So we have 44 native full frame lenses since 2013, right up to recently the brand new 50mm 1.2, which I have to say is probably the fastest autofocus lens and resolution and sharpness I've tested in our range. It's just phenomenal. If you're looking for that incredible professional portrait look, it's just, I've never experienced anything like that. And you combine it with an A1, it's a completely new experience if you're normally used to using the traditional cameras that we've got. So but of course there's a big price cost to that as well. But it just shows you here we've gone from 2013 right up to present day, where we've just released a huge amount of lenses. So clearly lens development and investment from your side is really important to us. We then have 20 APS-C lenses. So if I just change my screen here. Here we go. This just gives you a good idea of what we've got in the range, and I'm not going to go into detail in every single one because we just don't have enough time. So basically we have four different types of standard of lenses. We have Sony standard entry level, so like a 50mm 1.8. I know Gary Hill, if you're watching, Gary Hill, part of the Society's community, he completely uses that type of lens. It's a very entry level lens, but can make his portraits look fantastic. I know he uses other gear as well, but I was quite shocked actually when I first met Gary a few years ago in his studio that he was using the 1.8 50mm lens, which normally, a 250 quid job. Incredible what you can get out of these lenses. So whether it's standard or higher quality, the quality of our lenses is excellent. So that's the standard entry. Then we've got Sony G, and you can see it on here. It's a silver G on a black background, and you're getting center sharpness, fantastic. Not as sharp in the corner, say, compared to our G Master, but incredible resolution, fantastic build quality. And you're looking at lenses like 24, 40, 20mm. I mean, the list goes on. 24 to 105, the 200 to 600. Some fantastic lenses there. We also have a collaboration with Zeiss. So if I just move myself down here so you can actually see what I'm talking about. We have a collaboration with Zeiss. We've had this for many years now, and this gives you a very different look in camera. This gives you a very deep resolution, almost a look that you may be trying to get outside the camera. But one of my favourite lenses is there we go. Gary's just put up his sorry, just seen that his go-to lenses is what I said, and a Facebook user has said they're extraordinarily good. 24mm 1.4. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. Whoever that is, you know, centre to corner sharpness on G Master lenses is incredible. But the Zeiss, amazing. The f 1.4 35mm, the longer one, I used it last weekend actually when I went away camping with the family. It just blurs out the background, and it gives you this really deep, rich colour, not vivid like a mode or anything like that, but really sharp, deep resolution that actually I'm trying to get outside the camera, so I'm getting it in. And for me, my line of work is trying to get it right in the camera without any editing. But slightly heavier, but amazing build quality as well. Really metal, cold feel to the touch as well. So fantastic piece of glass. And then we have the Sony G Master. And if I just bring up another slide here, let's just move this out of the way. There we go. So you can see more G Master lenses here. This is our premium quality lenses. So I think somebody mentioned they're the 24mm lens. This is fantastic build quality, weather resistance as well. So when you combine with our weather resistant bodies, you've got more, you know, battling the elements a lot better than having a non-sealed lens combination. But 85mm lens, I mean, incredible bokeh, and maybe Colin, we will do a lens webinar in the future to show you some demonstrations of that. But incredible bokeh, incredible sharpness, centre to corner. The 135 as well, just an amazingly fast lens, sharp, and I did mention the 50mm. But then we have the telephotos, so 7200, f2.8, 100 to 400. The super telephoto lenses in the form of 400 and 600 as well. And just to quickly then go into the APS-C lenses, so the advantage of the APS-C lenses, I'll just move myself here. The APS-C lenses are a lot smaller. So if you're working at the full frame equivalent, for example, a 10-18 would be times it by 1.5. So what I normally do is halve it and then add it on. So a 10, half of 10 is 5. You add 5 on, gives you 15. So it's the equivalent of a 15mm wide lens. These are a lot smaller. Pancake lenses as well, like a 16mm, which is the equivalent of a 24. You can put it in the palm of your hand and it weighs probably less than a pound coin. So bit of an exaggeration there, but it's that light. And again, to show you here, so we've got telephoto equivalents, 55mm, so we've got, again, that would be closer to 100 and so on. So the message here, and if I just come back to my screen here, the message here, let's just put that on there. The message here is, you know, we have a wide range of lenses, a wide range of bodies that if you are looking to come over from another manufacturer, then rest assured, in such a short space of time. For effectively, if you think about it, probably a lot of people watching have Sony products like televisions and earphones and PlayStations and things like that. We obviously have businesses in movies and music and so on. In such a short space of time, the imaging division of our business has basically grown massively, and the Sony Imaging focus in the UK and Ireland here is supporting obviously our retailers through ways of webinars to gain more knowledge about where everything sits in the range. So hopefully you'll be able to see from that you know, we have a wide range of lenses. Please look at the ticker URLs as well, because that will give you more information on our lens range. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I don't know if there's any more questions, Colin, but we're going to go into more detail now around the EMount strategy. So what does it mean? And then we're going to go straight into the A7 III and versus the A7 II to show you the differences, and also then the A7C. And when I finish the A7C demonstration, we'll have a look if we've got any more questions there. So let's have a look at the EMount strategy, give you an idea about, you know, the one mount system, and then the A7 III, A7C, and we'll come back and we will see if you've got any questions. Let's have a look at the system itself. The EMount system is a good starting point to find out more about Sony lenses. So the EMount system is for Sony, and that's for the APS-C, the full frame, and the cinema line bodies as well. So for example, if you've got a full frame lens, you can use it on APS-C, and if you've got an APS-C lens, you can use it on a full frame body. And if you do that, you need to times the crop factor by 1.5 times to get the 35mm equivalent. But it's such a great system. There's 58 native lenses, including accessories. You can choose from wide angle to telephoto, and it's for amateurs, professionals, and enthusiasts like myself. So it's not just set for one type of photography genre. It's for everybody, and whether that's a small compact system to a more larger professional system, then as you can see from this video, all the lenses fit. And I think that's just a really strong point, that you don't need any adapters or anything like that to bring the handshake or the technology to life. So as I said, there's 58 native lenses in the range. We'll have a little bit more closer look at the lenses in more detail in a second, but just to let you know, that's one mount strategy for the whole system. We've got the A7 III and A7 II side by side here, and they basically share the same megapixel sensor, but the sensor on the 3 is a newer sensor over the A7 II. ISO performance, you're going to find that the processing on the A7 III is a lot better. So in certain ISO performance low light situations, the A7 III is going to have the edge over the A7 II. They both have 5-axis stabilization, which is obviously great for keeping low light shots, handheld, slow shutter speeds, etc. Blur-free images, and they both can have both have a mechanical shutter, but the A7 III shoots 10 frames per second, both mechanical and electronic, whereas the A7 II shoots 5 frames per second. Now, one of the biggest differences between the two is the autofocus system. So if you're looking for one of the latest systems of autofocus with the camera, then the A7 III is the one to go for. Even though these are all-rounders, it has a superior autofocus system. So it has fast hybrid autofocus, phase detection, 693 AF points. It's huge. It covers 93% of the sensor. And it also has 422 contrast detection points. Whereas the A7 II has 117 phase detection. So you can see massive difference between the two. And of course, with that, you've got real-time eye autofocus, both in human and animal. Make sure you've updated your camera if you've had the camera for a few years now. And obviously, that's going to give you more. The algorithms are going to be a lot more responsive on the A7 III. The A7 III can shoot silently, and they share the same shutter speed as well at 1,800th of a second. Now, as you can imagine, with a newer processor, better processor, the video is also going to be very good. I know we're talking about stills, but on the A7 III you get 4K, whereas on the A7 II, the best you're going to get is full HD. They share the same resolution OLED viewfinder at 2.36 million. It's slightly bigger magnification on the 3, and the tiltable screen is the same size, but it's touchscreen on the A7 III. Has 2 SD card slots on the A7 III again, so obviously that's really important if you're going to do any backup shooting with the camera, and they take the USB-S2 compatible on that one, whereas the A7 II has single. And of course, the battery is different. The capacity on the Z batteries, you see on the left here, is double the capacity. So you're going to, for example, if you're using the LCD all the time, then you double the amount of photographs you can take on the A7 III. Size and weight, very similar, but you're looking at 599 grams for the A7 II, 657 grams for the A7 III. And so pretty much, if you're looking for an all-rounder camera that's going to do everything, that's great for landscapes, night scenes, fast-moving sports, etc., then I highly recommend it. So this is the A7C. So as you can see straight away, it's a completely new design. Doesn't look anything like our traditional Alpha cameras. And it's this instance, it's a two-tone color. It's a silver and black. There's one also all in black. But it's a 35mm full-frame sensor camera, and with a very nice design, flat, retro, modern. And it has lost a few customization buttons that you would compare to an A7 III, but still can be customized fully in the function menus. So it has a lot in common with the A7 III, so let's leave the design alone, but let's look at the sensor. The sensor is pretty much the same, 24 million pixels, and has the same kind of ISO performance as well, 100 to 51,200. That's 5-axis body in stabilization, which gives you 5 stops of compensation as well, and can shoot 10 frames per second, as well as the A7 III. Now, we're talking about stills, but it is set up as a very good video camera. You've got HDMI, you've got USB-C, you've also got microphone, headphone jack, and on this occasion we have one SD card slot. Now, it does have the same battery as the A7 III, which is the FZ100 battery, which is going to give you double the capacity over Mark II versions. So as we said, the design is really nice, really cool looking. It is smaller and lighter than the A7 III, and you're looking at 509 grams for the A7 III against 650 grams for the A7 III. It's obviously a lot narrower because it doesn't have the central viewfinder as well. Button layout, there seems to be more controls again on the A7 III, but that doesn't hamper the performance of the camera, and also it doesn't compromise on picture quality just because it's a smaller camera. You're boasting the quality of the 35mm full frame dynamic range, but in a smaller body. And as I said, we've only got one slot on here, whereas the A7 III has 2. Now, the viewfinder is smaller, as you would find, to keep this compactness down. And we are using a 0.39 inch OLED viewfinder with a magnification of 0.59 times and a resolution of 2.36 million dot resolution. You've, like I said, got the retractable, fully articulated screen versus the tiltable screen of the A7 III, and it has the same autofocus system. So you're looking at both cameras having the 693 phase detection points and 425 contrast AF, and that also includes animal eye autofocus as well as human eye autofocus in stills and video for human. Animal eye AF is only in stills. Again, we're looking at this from a stills perspective, but it is more than a capable video camera with all the latest codecs and 4K shooting, and the shutter speeds can go up to, on the A7 III, 1,800th of a second, but on the A7C it's 1,400th of a second. And with the latest technology, the A7C just has slightly better buffer capabilities. It can record more than 220 JPEGs, final 115 compressed RAW files compared to 163 JPEGs and 89 RAW files for the A7 III. So overall, if you're looking for a stylish alternative to the traditional Alpha 7 Mark III look, then I highly recommend this. But the files, the speed is no compromise in quality just because it's small, but a great concept with a new range within the Sony Alpha range.
Okay, so we're just going to pause for a second. So, Colin, I don't know if we've got any questions since those little bit of content play.
Yeah, just double check your audio there, Mark. It's just feedback on that. Yes, so really interesting so far. Fantastic. It's brilliant to see the cameras kind of like in 3D, if that makes sense, because obviously we get to see the pictures of the products online through the press releases, but to actually see them spinning around virtually is gives you a bit more of a flavour for what we're getting. So we did have a question come in, and it was about when you were talking about batteries. So let me just find that one.
Okay.
So someone's asked, I'm concerned about battery life on mirrorless cameras. Are they as good as my digital SLR?
Oh, yeah, good question. I mean, look, if you're going back quite a few years now, obviously DSLRs, I know they've changed in size and weight and so on, but one of the reasons why they're big, they have big batteries, they last long. So I think the DSLR batteries have always been, I suppose, the benchmark of, can mirrorless cameras get anywhere near them? And I suppose, this is what this person's asking is that. Look, I think since the introduction of the Z battery, which is the double the capacity battery, I was just trying to think if I've got one there, but this, for example, we quote for the A7 III, for example, like 760 shots, full resolution, 24 million pixels, and I think in the world of mirrorless technology, this is pretty much at the top. However, the reality is, and based on my experience of using the kit and photographers obviously using it and the people we work with and talk to, people are doing 1,000+
plus shots, and also, you know, small snippets of video and stuff. So I'll give you an example. I was out doing a shoot last week for some content creation, and on one camera, which was using, that was the FX3, the video camera, which you can imagine was taking a lot of power. We were doing stills video from that camera, and you know, shooting from 9 in the morning till 8 at night, and it had something like 3% left.
Right. Okay.
So you know, but I did have a backup of batteries. It'd be silly not to. But the fact is that I think, you know, going back a few years ago, yeah, the battery power wasn't as competitive, but I think now it is, and I think the battery power on newer products is getting better as well. So I think if you're looking, if that's a bit of an objection or an obstacle for that person, then, you know, rest assured that the battery technology is improving dramatically.
Amazing. Perfect. Thank you so much for that, bud.
Okay, no worries. So the A7 III and the A7C are that entry level type of camera. So if you like a more stylish camera, you know, you can use these as B cameras if you want to, but as a main camera, they're fantastic, incredible autofocus. So this could be for anybody, and I know that a lot of wedding photographers use the A7 III, and I know a lot of content creators, filmmakers, vloggers, video makers are using the A7C as well. So a more of an all-rounder. So what we're going to look at now is the A7S and then the A7R. So if you remember from earlier, the S is the low light, incredible low light, and also the video-centric style, but we're looking at it from a more of a stills perspective. And the resolution, which I know is very popular with the Society's members, is the, you know, dynamic range, the level of detail, the crop mode, that kind of stuff. So let's have a look at these videos, and we'll come back again once the A7R has finished. We'll then look at the A9 and the A1. So let's just have a look at the A7S series. 7S2 and 3 side by side here. S meaning sensitivity. It's an amazing camera with extra light sensitivity that has extendable ISO performance with ridiculous noise control. We know, working with photographers and filmmakers, shooting in the hundreds of thousands of ISO with incredible low light performance. So this is perfect for an astrophotographer, maybe a gig photographer, concert, that kind of thing, events, corporate, whatever, commercial. Fantastic for that type of photography. Boasts 12 million pixel sensor, and the processor in the S3 is 8 times faster. So the pixels are a lot larger, cover a larger surface area, the bigger, and let more light in. Now the ergonomics on the two cameras are clearly different. There's a better grip on the S3, and also has a fully retractable articulated screen rather than the tiltable screen you see here on the S2. Now it has double the capacity battery life, which also means it has better image stabilization, which is going to give you lower light shots, handheld free, kind of blur free images when you're either using stills or video. Now trying to find more reasons why this camera is so good for stills, because it is really a dedicated camera towards video. So we see a lot of filmmakers making this, buying this camera, but it is a fantastic stills camera with low light performance that is unrivaled in our range. Has 2 SD card slots, but not just for SD cards, but also for the CF Express Type A cards as well. Now, I won't go into any detail around video, but the white balance has been improved, and the autofocus has also been improved. It now boasts 759 AF points versus 169 on the S2. And as I said, the capacity of the battery is double, and you'll see here that the Z battery, which will give you double the shots, longer recording time as well, and it's unlimited recording on this camera. It has IAF, which you would find on most of our cameras, but also it's improved by around 30%. It also has a quieter shutter. So as well as the dual cards, battery, it also has a better heat management system, which you would expect if you're recording high quality video for long periods of time. It has a heat management system to support that. The EVF is incredible as well. It's gone from 2.36 to 9.44, and it has the new menu system. And as you can see here, it's not only just new, it's got a whole new layout, it's also touchscreen as well. So we now have the
R series, which is dedicated resolution, the R3 and the R4. Now, the two cameras do have some things in common, which means they have the same 5-axis sensor stabilization, which gives you 5.5 stops of compensation, 10 frames per second continuous shooting with auto exposure and autofocus tracking. It has things like time-lapse and video, 4K, Full HD, and also has the same LCD 3-inch screen, which is touch sensitive as well. It also has the same battery life, so FZ100 battery, which is double the capacity over previous models. But the image quality and dynamic range is where it has a slight difference. The R4 has 61 million pixels on a full frame sensor versus 42.4 million pixels, which is roughly around 68% of the amount present on the new camera. So if you want a camera with an amazing dynamic range and detail, then these cameras are both to look at. The 61 megapixel sensor can deliver 15 stops of dynamic range at low ISOs, and looking at the ISO performance, the signal to noise ratio for both cameras is very, very good indeed. The cameras shoot RAW at 14-bit with compressed and uncompressed options, and the R4 you can shoot 4:3 and 1:1 as well. Now, they have a system called Pixel Shift, and on the R4 you can now shift the sensor by 1 pixel between each frame, which gives the equivalent of 240 million pixels. You do need the Image Edge software to create that, but and you do need to have a steady hand, and preferably on a tripod. But the autofocus is different as well. So on the R4 you've got 567 phase detection points, which covers around 74% of the sensor. And on the A7R3 you have 399 phase detection points across 68% of the sensor. Both can use animal IAF and human IAF as well. And one of the things that really comes into fruition is with the APS-C crop. Now, if you crop in camera, I know a lot of people like that or don't like that, but my advice to you is, if you do have this camera and you've not tried this before from a wildlife perspective, if you crop into the camera using 61 megapixels, it crops in at 26.2, but gives you 100% autofocus coverage. So this is a very high resolution camera that may be used for landscapes, portraits, commercial, but also consider it as a fantastic wildlife camera as well, because you crop in, you you times your focal length by 1.5 times, and say, for example, a 200 to 600 mm lens becomes a 300 to 900 mm lens with 26 million pixels. So if you're looking for cameras for the best speed and autofocus in our range, then the A9 II and the A9 Mark I are the best cameras to go for. Now, they share the same type of stack layered sensor, which is 24 million pixels full frame, and stack layered means it has a memory built in where it can buffer 276 raw shots to the memory of the sensor before it hits the card, which then gives you zero blackout in the viewfinder. It's almost like looking at an optical viewfinder, but it is actually an electronic viewfinder. It has the same ISO range of 100 to 51,200 and can shoot 20 frames per second electronically with an autofocus and auto exposure tracking. Has 1/32,000th of electronic shutter and has 693 AF points phase detection, that is, with 425 contrast AF. But it can calculate the autofocus as 60 times per second. That is lightning fast. Real-time tracking, real-time IAF as well, and a 3.69 million dot resolution EVF with the same type of touch-sensitive screen. Now, the design is slightly bigger on the A9 Mark II, and it has a better, more comfortable grip. But the mechanical shutter now on the A9 Mark II doubles it up from 5 to 10. And at the same time, it uses a new type of shutter mechanism that basically reduces shutter vibration and noise. The A9 Mark II also has an anti-flicker mode, which you find now is becoming standard in cameras like the A9 Mark II and the A1. So it allows you to reduce any kind of exposure and detects any kind of banding when fluorescent lights are on present, for example. It also has real-time IAF improvements, especially in video, and the image stabilization. Now, the A9 has 5 stops of image stabilization, where the A9 Mark II has 5.5. Now, in regards to connectivity, then you have added connectivity with things like LAN terminal, FTP servers, and on top of that, the A9 Mark II now can have a system called Voice Memo. Now, you can
use the camera and talk into the camera when you're metadating the JPEG images, when you're transferring the photos, say, from a mobile device using our Image Edge software. And finally, the SD card slots. Although they both take 2 SD card slots, on the A9 Mark II, both slots now are used for UHS 2 compatibility. When you look at the technology we covered and all the best bits and you put it all together into one body, then the A1 is the one that has everything. So when you have something like 8K video, your processor and sensor has to be the best in our range, and it does. It is about 8 times faster than the A9 Mark II. And really the only thing that it's got in common with, say, the A9 Mark II is the ergonomics, the stabilization, and the battery life. It's what's going on inside that's completely different. 50 million pixel stacked layered sensor, 30 frames per second. We mentioned 8K video, but it's calculating the autofocus at 120 frames per second. So it means it's so fast that, again, there's blackout-free images through the viewfinder, which refreshes at 240 frames per second. And the EVF is 9.44 million dot resolution. It has a new flash mechanism, which, with the new mechanical shutter, it syncs electronically at 200th of a second and mechanically at 1/400th of a second. It has an anti-distortion and flicker-free system, which then gives you 759 AF points, covering 92% of the sensor with AF tracking, real-time tracking, IAF in video and stills, as well as animal IAF. It now has the new bird IAF. Now, I did try this out over the weekend. I managed to get my hands on a sample. I was very fortunate to do that, and I have to say it worked incredibly well. The accuracy of the autofocus was so reliable. It has to be the best I've ever tested in the Sony range. It has 5.5 steps of stabilization and has the same heat dispersion or heat management system as the A7S Mark III. It has the brand new USB-C 3.2 charging, better FTP connectivity with 5G, and the 2 SD card slots obviously now take the CF Express A type as well. It's got dust moisture resistance improvements, the brand new menu system, new ergonomics on the top with the mode dial, lossless RAW, light JPEG. There's so much with this camera that we'd have to do another session, I think, on the camera itself. So if you're looking for a camera that does everything in one system, then I highly recommend the A1. There we go. So just to cover there, that we covered the A7S, the R4, the A9 and A1. And if you go back to what we said earlier, the A1 is a combination really of amazing low light performance, amazing resolution, speed, accuracy, video, 8K video, all that kind of stuff. So this is the one, as we call it, that does it all. But rest assured, the A9 has its place in the speed, etc., the resolution for A7R4 and the A7S in sensitivity. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of where everything sits. But come back to you, Colin, before we have a look at technology in a little bit more detail. I don't know if you've got any further questions.
I mean, it's a fantastic piece of kit, that. I mean, amazing to see some of the technology in it. It's just phenomenal. Just to kind of tie in two things, obviously we've just finished with the A1 now. Chris made an interesting point back to a question that we had earlier on what came in about battery life. So I thought it'd just be interesting to pull it up. So Chris said, I came from Nikon D850 and now shoot with the A1. Battery life isn't an issue for me, and I shoot wildlife with continuous focus on all the time. The A1 is power hungry given its processing power, but it's still fine. I previously used the A7R4 and A9, and these were fine on battery too. So back to that question before, I thought it'd be good to pull that up from Chris, who's obviously using it in the field, so to speak, quite literally.
Look, I mean, thank you, Chris. That's a really good endorsement, and especially that, you know, obviously somebody that's used another brand and has come over, and you know, it is a question that we come up with a lot
at trade shows pre-COVID and through webinars like this. So it's good to hear somebody out in the industry using it as well. So he is right. The A1 has an incredibly more higher resolution, obviously more power, EVF, electronic viewfinder. The stack layered sensor inside is unique. It's shooting hundreds of raw shots to the memory of the sensor. This sensor's got a memory built in. Okay, so before it hits the card, because the readout is so fast, it can buffer 30 frames per second until the card runs out. So it doesn't. There's just no blackout. It's incredible. And believe it or not, I'm preparing for a webinar tomorrow. We've even got the same technology, and I've got it here. In an RX 100 Mark 7. It's a 1-inch sensor, so it's that's like a mini A9, that one, if anyone's interested. But thank you for that, because I think that rightly so, people are thinking, is the battery life right? Is the autofocus as good? Is it as we need more people like Chris to be able to share that with the rest of the community. So thank you for that. Really helps.
Going on to your point about autofocus, Chris also said bird eye autofocus is fantastic, not just hype. So yeah, because that's
it is, and I've tried it myself, and I laughed, not at the camera and the technology, but laughed because even in flight and obviously static, it works like eye autofocus, and that's a good lead into technology in a second. But I've some fantastic demos to show you that this isn't just showing off. It isn't showing off like, look at what this kit can do. I'm trying to show you guys here today that there's no way I can show you other than showing you the back of the camera of what I saw. There's no magic, there's no trickery. This is exactly what I'm going to show you next, is exactly what I saw at the back of the camera. And if your camera does the same, great. But if it doesn't, then hey, if you're thinking about switching to Sony, then this technology can almost be your assistant, your imaginary assistant. We'd all like to have somebody with us to help us, get the best out of our cameras, but we don't have that additional person sometimes to help. So the technology can help you if you understand it and use it as part of your workflow. So like I said, it's not just a hey, look, it's actually this could benefit and help you get the images you can get, maybe that you can't get with whatever situation you're in. So. Yeah, shall I play that? Should we have a look at some more technology? Yes, let's have a look.
I was going to say, we've got a few more questions coming in, but we'll hold off on them because that fits nicely to the next part of the webinar anyway. So we'll hold off them. But please do keep submitting your questions. We will try and get through as many as possible in the time that we've got left. So please post them in the comments, and I'll hand it back over to you, Mark.
Yeah, we're not going to finish like 59 minutes 59 seconds, but we will. I'll stop waffling. We will answer your questions, and we'll stay online as long as it takes. So yeah, let me just show you a little bit about the AF technology, and then I've got some great demos. I had some fun with my kids on animal eye AF and human eye AF, both in stills and video, and I'm going to finally finish on some low light footage from the back of the camera and some tracking as well, just to show you really the things that really make a difference for me when I'm again, get this clear, I'm not a professional and I'm not an amateur. I'm fortunate to use Sony kit. I'm an enthusiast photographer, if you want to call it, and I love to document everything my family do. So when I do get a chance to go to, say, a hide, or I'm out walking and there's a kite in the sky and I've got my camera on me, then for me, I tend to use that content to test the kit and try and bring this to life to webinars like this. So let me just show you a little bit of information about the AF technology, and we'll go straight into eye technology, IAF, and the low light performance, and that will be nearly at the end before we talk about the offers. So here's the AF technology. What do you get then with AF technology with Sony using Sony lenses? So just going to bring this up a second, and then I'm going to pause the final image here. So it's artificial intelligent based autofocus. In this instance, we call it real-time tracking. It's found on quite a lot of our cameras now, but it takes in consideration color, pattern, distance, and also face and eye recognition. Some of our cameras also have around 693 AF points, as you can see in this diagram, and around 400 odd
contrast AF. So each individual square here is an autofocus point that will react accordingly in what we just covered, whether it's color, pattern, face detection, and eye detection as well. So to show you this in action, this boxer here, the green squares are focusing on that subject because it's nearer to you, it's a moving subject, and again, remember, this is all happening as you're depressing the shutter. So you don't have to think about this, it's actually happening as you do it. So this goes into a bit more detail. Whilst you're covering that sensor, it's found the lady's head, it's found her face, and then it finds the eye. And this is happening again so fast that it just happens in the camera. And as you can imagine, the most important part of or the heartbeat of the camera is the engine room, which is the sensor and the processor. So it's taken into consideration now here in more detail. It recognizes a subject. It looks at the pattern, it looks at the distance, and then all the programmed faces that are in the memory of the camera will then allow you to focus directly here on the face as the video shows. So it combines all that technology to give you incredible AF speed. So I've got the 50mm lens and we're going to test it on my dog. So we're going to select animal eye autofocus to see how sharp this can focus on my dog's eye. So just accessing that in the camera, and we focus immediately straight on my dog's eye. You can see when it goes green, it's taking the shot. When it's white, it finds the eye. It's extremely fast. I have to say, I've not used a G Master lens like this other than the 35mm and the 135. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to customize the focus hold button, the button on the side of the lens, to APS-C mode, and we're going to go from full frame to APS-C with a flick of a button. And you can see here it's gone from 16mm to 26, and it's still as fast in APS-C as it is in full frame. Look at that shallow depth of field as well on the nose and in the background as well. The background is completely blurred out whilst focusing on those eyes. As you can see, I took a lot of shots here, but we're going to pick up one and see how far we can zoom in a second. But I'm really pleased with that, and I crop in post-editing as well. But that's at 60mm pixels, and in post-editing you can see here the background and the foreground is completely washed out. It's so soft and creative. So we're going to zoom in as far as we can here, and this is 100%, and we're then going to go zoom into 200%. And as you can see from the level of detail here, the sharpness, the moisture around the eyelid, the contrast, the detail in the fur is absolutely sharp. Now, as well as eye autofocus in stills, this is in video. It's automatically doing this. The camera's on the table. I'm not doing anything. It's just finding my son's eye automatically without any prompting. And then this is the footage of the back of the camera. As he's moving his head around, it's focusing on the eye. When his eye's not in focus, it's focusing on his face. As you can see, the white box says the face is there. The green is taking the shot. And even though he doesn't look like he had some fun here, but he did give me a smile. But there's one shot I just wanted to show here. When you zoom into the camera, the picture-in-picture shows you the area I'm focusing on. This is in the camera, 300%. It's incredibly sharp. Both eyes there. And then in post-editing, we have a look at how far we can push this one. And we zoom into around 100% on this camera. And you can see here the level of detail, again, both eyes. But we push it even further now to 200%. And as well as just the main point here is the eyes in focus, the eyebrows, the eyelashes, the veins, the skin detail, the detail in his skin is really reproduced fantastically well. So I've just come out of that because what I'm going to show you now, just to let you know that the video will start off as a black screen. So keep watching it because something will appear. And this is a demonstration on low light. So this is the A7S Mark III. And just to paint the picture, I had an opportunity when we were allowed to go out the last lockdown, so last year, at a hide where I was focusing on something in the water, and it'll come through as you see it. But the message here is not just about the low light, but also the ability for the camera to actually focus in the dark. So around 800 ISO, when you see something appear, that's what I saw with the naked eye. So hopefully this will give you a good idea of how good the A7S low light capability is. And here we go. This is low light shooting, and this is with the A7S Mark III. And you can see I'm going through the ISO from around 80, and
as you can see in the image here, a heron is starting to appear. So I was at a hide back at the before the last lockdown, and I was testing some kit in low lights. You can see here, as I'm talking, we're going up to 10,000 ISO, and hopefully on your screen you'll be able to see that the level of detail, but the lack of noise at these high ISOs is just incredible. And I've pulled this out for this webinar because the A7S III is just a specialized camera for low light. This is a recording in 4K, and we're just seeing the back of the screen. So I decided to push it a little bit further, and it's just starting to blow out a little bit in the highlights, but at 32,000 ISO, it's just remarkable. I couldn't see that with the naked eye. What I could see was, well, nothing. So in the next bit of footage, it shows that we've got some controlled flash, and I've set the A7S Mark III up to track, but what's remarkable about this footage is that it focuses in complete darkness, and you can see it here, the red cursor moving around to try and find the eye. There it is. As soon as I just depress the shutter, it goes green. You saw the flash go off. There's the image with the EXIF data there in the camera, and I'm going to zoom in as far as I can go, and you can see the level of detail at that high ISO is just crazy. It really is. So not only is it an amazing, the A7S series is amazing for video. We don't see much footage these days around stills, but it is a fantastic stills camera. We try it one more time. On the left hand side you'll see the burst indicator to show you how many shots you're taking. We've got 1250 ISO. We zoom into the camera again. Incredible detail. So hopefully that just gives you a very short snippet of the technology in the cameras. And yep. Let me turn that off. Thank you, Colin. Yeah, sorry. I hope that gives you a good idea of some of the technology that is in our cameras. It's always difficult that we can't do this face to face, but hopefully in the next few months we might be able to return to do that. But Colin, that's it from my side. I just wanted to say as well, if you are in the Preston area, at Wilkinson Cameras on Friday, tomorrow, one of our team, Sayad, will be in the store with all his gear, including the A1 and the FX3. So obviously done social distancely. You can go in and see Sayad, and the offers that we've got going on with Wilkinson this week will also be applicable in store as well. So fire away if you've got any more questions.
Amazing. Do you want to do questions first, or do you want to do the offers first, or which way around do you want to do it?
Well, look, let's get the offers in. So if you are interested, we've got a huge amount of offers with Wilkinson Cameras. So if I just bring them up here, first up. So first up is, if I just bring this up, we've got a free peak design match pack, which, here we go. So a free peak design match pack worth £60 with selected models, and that's using the following online code. I'm going to bring that up now. Let me just bring up a picture of what it looks like. So there's £60 worth of peak design gear, and the code is free peak. So if you are interested in that, please put that in at the end of your purchase with your basket. And then the other offer we have here is 10% off all selected Sony lenses using the online code, get ready for it, Sony 10. So if you use that at the end of your purchase, then you will get off selected lenses 10% off, which is a fantastic offer because we've also got cashback on. So up to £300 cashback. You can visit the terms and conditions at the bottom of the screen here, but also visit obviously the Sony Week website on the Wilkinson Cameras webpage, so you can save 10% cashback on top. And if that's not enough, register your product at this website and you might even get another £100 off your lens. So this is quite big money. And when you do purchase your camera or lens from Wilkinson Cameras this week, register it at this website, because we will give you an additional year's warranty on top of the warranty that Wilkinson Cameras is offering, and that's normally around £40. Some good deals.
Perfect. So just if anybody's watching this live, then of course the place to head to is wilkinson.co.uk/Sony Week. So make sure you head there to check that out. And of course, those offers will be available for a few days. So if you're watching this on the catch up within a few days, then of course you can still look at the offers there then. If you're watching this way after and you're a few weeks after, then just drop either Wilkinson Cameras or us, the Societies of Photographers, a line, and we will give you the best deals that are available when you drop us a line. So with that, let's do a couple of the questions. I'm going to try and do them in order because they are quite similar. So Paul was asking, what's the story using non-Sony lenses such as Nikon?
Okay, so as we said earlier, there's nothing better than using a native system to make the handshake between the body and the lens. And if you're coming from another brand, we obviously don't make the adapters for that. So I think the best answer to that type of question is, look, do your research. Go out there, go on the Wilkinson website, have a look at what adapters they've got, give them a call, answer online to find out what the best one is. Google it as well. There's a lot of people out there that have switched from other brands. There are a variety of adapters that do a variety of different things. There's ones that do autofocus. There's ones that do, just manual focus, and they're relatively cheap. So you can bring your glass over, but it won't, it won't perform as best compared to a Sony lens. You never know, it might even perform better than what you've got, dependent on the age of your camera and dependent on the quality of the adapter. So that's probably the best thing to say, but the fact is you can bring your glass over to Sony. Again, if you feel you've got a bit of money sat somewhere that you could offset to a Sony lens, then talk to the retailer, talk to the guys at Wilkinson. They've got a very good, strong second-hand trade-in business, so they know what they're talking about. So they'll give you the best prices that are currently available.
Perfect. I think that kind of neatly goes on to the next question off Jennifer, who's asking, does the eye autofocus work with third-party lenses like Tamron?
Yeah, good question. So I can't speak on behalf of each manufacturer, but the fact is another element of the lenses is there are other manufacturers like Zeiss, and even though we work with them on our own lenses, Zeiss, Tamron, Sigma, apologies if I've missed anything out, Samyang and so on. So there's loads out there. So it just proves it's a very good ecosystem to come over to. In regards to the question, yes, depends on what the adapters are like. So I do know that some adapters do pretty much all the autofocus, yes, but this is where it gets slightly interesting. For the example, the A1, if you're buying that camera, it's 30 frames a second, it's got the latest technology, but if you use third-party lenses, you don't get the full capability of the camera. Yes, you'll get eye autofocus and things like that, but you don't get things like 30 frames per second. That will drop considerably, and we're adding more of our own lenses to that list to make it compatible. So the answer here is stick to the Sony native lens system if you want to get the best out of the technology, and I think you could probably say that for most manufacturer brands as well. So hopefully that answers your question.
Amazing. Chris is back with a question this time. So Chris is asking, thanks guys for a nice overview of the Sony range. Does the 10% apply to the 600 f4 or the 400mm f2.8?
We'll have to talk to Wilkinson Cameras about that. It is on selective lenses. Again, we're here to help customers, but again, my guess is it probably isn't. But please pick up the phone and speak to Wilkinson Cameras and see what we can do.
Perfect. I think we've got one more coming in. So I have a Nikon D750. What's the Sony equivalent?
Okay, so I think that's their kind of high resolution megapixel sensor cameras. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that would be the R series, A7R series. So our latest model would be the A7R Mark IV, which has some great cashback online offers as well. The A7R Mark III is another great alternative. And as you can imagine, with it being not the latest in that range, you're going to get some fantastic offers. So the price point has dropped dramatically, not because the camera's not very good, it's just that it's been superseded by a new product, and that's what tends to happen with a lot of manufacturers. Obviously the latest model that doesn't become the latest model, the price is repositioned. So I think that's been repositioned over the last year or so. So you talk to the guys at Wilkinson's, have a look at their Wilkinson Cameras, have a look at their website, and see what you can get online. And don't forget, there's cashback on that as well. So yeah, that would be the equivalent.
Amazing, perfect. I think that's about it for today. I think we've managed to catch all the questions and just going to have a quick flip through just in case I missed anything. I think we've caught them all. So from us here at the Society of Photographers, a massive thank you to both yourself, Mark, and everyone at Sony, and everyone at Wilkinson Cameras for supporting the webinar. They've got some great offers on. So again, don't forget to check out the link, wilkinson.co.uk/Sony Week, for all the fantastic offers that are available this week. But yeah, a really insightful webinar into the Sony Alpha family series of cameras and how they all work. And yeah, it's fantastic to see. You know, I know we've got more webinars that we want to do, so do keep a lookout on both our pages and obviously Wilkinson Camera pages for any upcoming webinars. But from us, a massive thank you, Mark.
A pleasure. It's always great to talk about the range and to give people an understanding whether it's something they're looking to, you know, move forward with now or in the future. So, you know, use this webinar, go back onto the Wilkinson Facebook page, watch it at a later stage. And, you know, there's an offer of open support. I don't give my details out, obviously, because I'll just get so many responses. But if you are interested in moving to Sony and you need more information, maybe we can do some one-to-ones with you directly or anything like that, whether it's through the retailer or through myself. I know Colin would be more than happy to introduce you to me, and you've done that over time. And in fact, one of your members this morning actually got in touch as well and has taken up some advantage of the offers as well. So please, you know, send your details in, and you know, we might not be able to respond straight away, but at least we can try and help you or point you in the right direction, because the retailers are, you know, they're there to sell kit and so on, but they're there to help more than anything, and help you make that transition if that's the case.
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you so much again for today, Mark. We can't wait to see you back on the webinar series really soon.
See you again. Thank you.
Take care.
And I've just bought it specifically because it's got
£1,000 in April when we've just gone into lockdown.
subscribable. And then at the very end, have a call to action or ask for somebody's opinion.
Because I want the I'm just a coster that license that face.
If you recommend the approved insurance provider for certain members, then I'll have all the information. Gives you a better insight about what's on products. We move around to our coffee table books.
That also comes with 2 pair of books on the Mentos. These are